can't become who you need or want to be by remaining who you are. Most of the time, it's just a lack of education. Learning to empathize with the other and realize they're not evil, they're just a product of their environment, really honed me into education. If you have your systems in place, you never have to blame a human. It's like, what's the procedure for this? They feel like they can check off those boxes and I did my job well. Like, how do you reward them for doing a job well if there's no system there in place? Start where you are, use whatever you have, and just do what you can.
Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. I am your host, Mary Katherine, and today's guest is Jodi Rund, who is a Fit Body franchise owner in South Florida. Prior to Fit Body ownership, Jodi served as a proud member of the U.S. military. Then she went on to start working in education and splitting her time between West Palm Beach, Florida, and Costa Rica. Today, she owns 3 Fit Body Bootcamp locations and hopes to help others understand that small changes in your lifestyle can lead to dramatic improvements in your fitness, health, and happiness. Jodi is a nutrition and research junkie, enjoys playing basketball, hiking, tumbling, and traveling, as well as writing about health-related topics in regards to family, pregnancy, children, and discipline. So welcome, Jodi, to the podcast.
Yeah.
We're excited that you are here, and we were just chatting before the show. She is in her Costa Rica home right now, which I totally admire that you do that you split your time. I just think that's so cool, especially for your kids to be able to experience 2 different cultures, 2 different environments, and just live that life and completely immerse yourself in that. So I think that's just so great, which we might talk about more later. But before we do that, you are a seasoned Fit Body Bootcamp owner. You've been with the brand for a while now. Talk to us about how you even got into the health and fitness space.
The long story. So I grew up in a really big family and lots of siblings. So we just try to get out of the house as much as possible. So I was joining every single sport that was offered to me. My mom was kind of just like a fitness nut, and she was always doing the latest and greatest fad diet. So we always had nutrition books around. It was when like 6th grade, we didn't have a girls basketball team, so I joined the boys team. And just being competitive, I'm like, how do I keep up? So I started reading nutrition books and found out that I could actually like outperform them by the way I ate. So I tied that into kind of my overall performance growing up, just nutrition science as well as, being healthy and fit and working out. So it was just sports related at that time. And then going into college at the University of Illinois, I kind of wanted to do sports nutrition. Didn't really know. I just knew I knew about it. And we had it was Illinois. So we had like the Chicago Bears, the Chicago Bulls. I thought I would help them perform better. But then the National Guard, which was paying for my college, they took me out my senior year to serve in Iraq. And that's kind of when things changed for me. Being overseas, though, like, since I was already kind of a health nut, like all the other soldiers would always ask me for programming, help me guide them. So I was putting together plans for them, working out and nutrition related, and I loved it. Like that was one of my main passions. But quickly when I got back, I changed my master's to education. I just saw like the gaps in education in Iraq with the people. And like for me, my whole motto has always been like people they do the best they can with what they've been given. And like most of the time, it's just a lack of education. And so learning to empathize with the other and realize they're not evil, they're just a product of their environment, really honed me into education. So my husband and I took a trip to Costa Rica when I got back, and we just fell in love with it. And we were adventurous at that time in our early 20s, didn't have kids, and I got offered a job at the local high school teaching English language arts. So I'm like, let's do it. So we did that. And then, of course, I've always worked out. So I had like a little personal gym at the house. Eventually, we moved on to start our own preschool through high school because of the gaps in education. And it was when we ran that school, parents would ask me to program for them. And like through that transition and journey, I kind of fell in love with that more than bureaucracy of running a school and the paperwork and, just the ownership that parents place on you for their kids' education. Whereas being in fitness is like, you're the boss, you're the authority. They just do what you say. And so I just realized I could not only impact the parents, but I could also impact their kids. And like, that was just the biggest benefit of doing that. So slowly We sold the school. I just worked there as a head teacher. And I started, at the time, it was called Train with Jodi. It was just like a private little training center that I had in my
Yeah.
house, and I would train people. And the Four Seasons here in Costa Rica, they contracted me as well. So that started our journey. And then my husband, he was still contracting with the government. He needed a security clearance and they wouldn't let him get it in Costa Rica. So we just chose Florida. We're like, Texas, Florida, any, mini, miny, mo, because it was the shortest flight, like 2.5
Yeah.
hours direct. And similar climate. So we didn't have to change wardrobe. We landed in South Florida, so West Palm Beach area. And of course, those of you guys who know our US government, nothing's fast. So we thought it would take like 6 months to a year. It took them 4 years to get that.
Wow.
So I had idle hands. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? I started like personal training one-on-one. I'm like, this is just not rewarding. If they don't, we know the business. If they don't show up, you don't have a job. It's just the run mill of in and out of trying to track down clients. And so I'm like, I don't really like this. And I was just on YouTube or Facebook or I don't know, somewhere, and I found Bedros. And my husband and I were super adventurous. We take action. We're like, let's do it. Let's try it. See if it works. Like, okay. So we bought into our first location in 2015 and opened that up in West Palm Beach. And we loved it. It was like, oh gosh, I have a captive audience of like 200 people right in front of me. It's such a great way to make an impact. And for me, being an educator, loving to present, loving to talk to people, that was like my dream job. I'm like, I found passion. Like I feel like a doctor, I can change lives.
Yeah.
And then hiring staff that has that same passion, be able to actually, give them what they need to find passion in their career and make it a career was very rewarding. And then, other people started asking for different locations. And so we ended up opening two more. So we had three Fit Body locations in 3 years in the Palm Beach County area in West Palm Beach. So that's kind of how I landed in Fit Body. Now we're stuck there since we have three locations. So I just go back and forth from Costa Rica to the locations. And luckily for me, they're now run remote. I have a great team, great leaders there. We do, because of COVID, everything's Zoom now, which is great. So they're all techie with it. We do all of our meetings via Zoom throughout the week. I check in with the teams. I run a lot of the back end tasks with our CRM and our systems. So it runs smoothly without me. And that's the best because I can live here in paradise. So that's the best of
Yeah.
both worlds.
That's truly incredible, and I wanna unpack a few things. So, you opened 3 locations within 3 years. I know that that was fun, but also challenging because I myself opened multiple locations in a short amount of time. So, talk to us about what that was like going from 1 location to 2 and then to 3. What was the most rewarding part? What was the thing you enjoyed the most? And then what was the most challenging part? Because we have a lot of people that listen to the podcast that maybe they're a client in the gym and they're interested in maybe Fit Body Bootcamp ownership or starting their own business or just doing anything at all. They are curious as to how you make that transition smoothly and how you have the right mindset in order to, make a move like this.
Well, the first thing is making sure you have a dedicated team. Before we opened up another location, we always made sure we had the correct person in place to run it.
Mhm.
That's been with me at my other location. So they know our systems, they care about us, we love them. They're like family. So my leaders have been with me almost since I've opened my first doors. So they're family. And that was the biggest thing. And that's like most rewarding too, is being able to give people who have your same heart. And fitness isn't a great place to earn a career. It's really tough to make it as a trainer. And so being able to offer them a career in this job that they love, that they're so passionate about and share my heart, that was the number one most rewarding thing. I know if I take care of my staff, they'll take care of my clients by default. So it's always, what do you need? What can I give you? What can be approved? What can I help you with? What are you struggling with? What do you need? And we have open doors, so they're very communicative with me. Anything they need, I try to make it happen like that. If it's possible, I'll do it. So
Yeah.
I like to implement fast, act fast. So that's the most rewarding. The second, of course, is the impact we do have on clients, like seeing their lives change. This is the most rewarding career and industry you could ever be in. But of course, it always, opening a business is a struggle to begin with. You have to have the members there, the clients, and watching them leave is the hardest part too. Of like, why? What did we do? What didn't you like? And we're in South Florida, so it's a very transient community, very fickle. People are jumping, there's so much competition, they're jumping to the next thing just because maybe if. But we found like since we've been open since 2015, they cycle back. Like, oh,
Yeah.
nothing worked like you. And they just keep coming back. I think if you really genuinely care about them, you know who they are, what their passions are, and you show that empathy, like that care is again what's missing. And of course, it's part of Fit Body's model is you give them that love, and you show them that love. You show them the care because they don't get it very often through anyone else in their life. So that's one of the main things is just figuring out ways to really connect with our clients on a deeper level than just being a place where they come and work out too. So that's tough. But again, building systems over time, I think the hardest part was the first one where we didn't know what we are doing. We're just like, okay, so we're great at throwing people into our
Right.
locations. We opened each one with over 200 paying members. We're like, yes. And then we just didn't know what to do with them after that. So we're like, okay, well, now what do we do?
Yeah.
So it's learning those systems and getting those in place and making sure they run smoothly and then putting those into the next one. And now that I got a good group of 3 locations, we're constantly like using them to better all 3 of them at the same time. So I've got like a little think tank, my own little mastermind with them. And that's how.
Definitely. Yeah, and it sounds like to me, you have experienced what it's like to build a community and a culture, and you understand how important that is because, like you said, people are jumping around and they're coming back, they're cycling back. It's because you guys have done a great job at cultivating that community where it's not just a gym. You are there for them in their lives outside of those 30 minutes, and you have seen firsthand how that's impacting their life. And I think that's a true testament to your leadership, what your coaches are doing, but then also Fit Body as a brand because you can get a good workout anywhere. And there are gyms on every single corner. But I think that one thing that sets us apart is the fact that we don't want you to feel like you're just coming to get a workout. We want you to feel like we do care about you. We do care about you. We care about your success. We care about your life outside of boot camp, and we want you to go on and do great things, and we only know that you can only do so much if you're not taking care of yourself, and it all goes back to that. And I want to talk about like how you have managed your own mental and physical health amongst the craziness of as being a business owner. How have you been able to do that? Because I know that's not easy. Even though you own a gym, sometimes I know for me personally, there would be days where I'm coaching all these sessions and I'm helping everybody else, but then I'm not taking time for myself.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part because sometimes you just want to light it all on fire. Like I just
Yeah.
want time to myself. I don't want to be like bothered 24/7 with all these questions. And like I've struggled with that work-life balance all my life. And just setting up parameters and boundaries, turning off notifications. I learned to outsource. Like finally, like this didn't happen until like 2022, I think. My husband and I realized that like you shouldn't be doing all this back end stuff. If you pay someone $5 to do this, why are you doing it? You're worth more than $5 an hour. So that really helped me like analyze my business. It took me a while to put together all the stuff I was doing that was sucking the life out of me that, I could do. And I would just be the easy button because I'm like, oh, I'm not going to ask them to do it because they'll just mess it up. I'll just do it myself. That sort of stuff, or they'll do it and then I just have to go in and fix it. So like realizing that I could make a standard operating procedure manual and have someone else outsource it to them and do it
Mhm.
better than I do was fantastic. It freed up so much of my time. I'd go into our CRM and I'd be like, God, I don't have anything to do. I'm like, it's done. I'm like,
Yeah.
now I was like, what do I do with my time? So it's like figuring out how I manage my time now that I have free time because I still feel like I need to be at the computer when I don't.
Hmm.
So blocking out time has been really important. We actually, my kids and I, we did a 75 hard, and that really like made us closer because I took my youngest son. He worked out with me every morning. We did a fit body workout. What's nice is my teams do them live, so we just go down our gym here in Costa Rica and we put them on the screen. We do a fit body workout each morning, so that really helped me set a routine with him where now we have this morning ritual that we do together. And I block out all notifications. We'll go for a swim after that. I'll do like some Spanish learning. So will he, and then he hops on his education. I go to my computer. So that's set me up well. And for me, I've realized that for so long, I've always been the easy button. Like, just go to Jodi. And like, even Thad's helped me formulate my words. I'm like, okay, she's like, no, 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 you go figure it out. And if you can't, let me know instead
Yeah.
of saying, I'll do this for you. My real goal, I think, as a leader is to do nothing. where everything's just executed beautifully within my business by my coaches, my leaders. My goal is more to look up and out and forward for vision, not down and micromanaging all the time. I don't
Mm,
want to be the easy button. So I've learned to say, hey, go figure it out, come up with a plan, tell me how you want to handle it, and I'm good. And then if it doesn't work out, I'll give them some tips. And it's like I figured out like you can't become who you need or want to be by remaining who you are. If I don't
mm,
want to be an easy button, I can't continue to do that. And
yeah.
so it's taken some time, because the A-type personality, eagle owl. So, but it's really freed up my mental space, capacity to go out with my kids, go to the beach, do things that I want to do and say, hey, I'm going to be out for this block of time. Don't contact me. My teams will handle it. So that's been a huge relief for me, managing my time and stress.
Mm. You can't become who you want to be by remaining who you are. I love that so much. And I think that can be applied to, leaders that are running a Fit Body location, running any business, but also our clients in the gym, because we see too often women come in and say, I'm too busy, or my husband has a stressful job and I'm the default parent. My kids have activities. I just don't have time for this right now. But yet they're also looking to you saying, I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to get my health under control. I want to start taking care of myself, but they're like teeter-tottering on that line of going all in and doing it, and I don't have time, I shouldn't, maybe I'll do it one day. And I love that you mentioned you can't get to where you want to be by remaining where you are right now, because that's what's happening to them, is they're just remaining where they are and they're sitting still and they're accepting what's going on and they're not trying to push through it all. So I love that you mentioned that. What do you do in the gym and for your team and for your clients to help them push through that mindset? Because I mean, we see it all the time.
Yeah, and I used to, because I'm such a nutritional nerd. I love white papers, I love research, and everyone's not like me. Like, often when I talk, they're like, "I don't know what those words mean. You got to dumb it down for us. Like, stop. You're overwhelming." And
Yeah.
for me, I just like word vomit over everyone because I know what they should be doing. They're just not. So I've really learned to like take a stepladder approach. My
Hmm.
main motto with them is, "Hey, start where you are, use whatever you have, and just do what you can." Take that one step. And so many people beat themselves up over a bad weekend or having the birthday cake or going out for a party or drinking too much. And then they just like throw up their hands. I'm like, you're only one workout away, one meal away from being right back on track. Just jump back in. And we just tell them, like, don't beat yourself up. Like, no judgment here. We're all been there. Don't worry. We all do this. And so a lot of them, it's just with that mental capacity, getting in their head and saying, you have to start somewhere. Just do it. You've got the tools. And I sit down with them, bring out their calendar and like, okay, so you don't have time. Let's figure out, let's write everything down on this calendar that you have to do. Let's see where we can move things around to squeeze in 3 workouts for this week.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes a matter of just hand holding with them and showing it can be done. It's just a matter of, is it a priority to you? And like figuring out what is your priority. If you make this a priority, you will get it done. Just like if you have to go to a doctor's appointment or bring your kids to school or have a party or event, you will get it done. So changing that mindset with them and having them think it through that way really does help at least get them over that first hurdle.
Mm, yeah. Meeting them where they're at. I like that. What is like one unique point of value about your personal growth journey as an entrepreneur that our audience could adopt, whether they are a business owner or they're just a client listening to this?
Or just starting a business or running a business.
Yeah, like, so what's something that you've learned over the years that you think that anybody could adopt that could help them either in their personal journey or in their journey to becoming a business owner?
Systems. That sounds ridiculous, but systems. Like if you have your systems in place, you never have to blame a human. It's like,
Mm,
what's the procedure for this? And how
yeah.
was it done? The procedure remembers this and you did it this way. So you always go back to what is our procedure on this? What's the system in place for how we do this? Was it done this way? And like instead of saying you did it wrong, you always go back to those systems, man, and making sure everyone on the team knows them. And that's been my biggest my biggest value for me as an owner is realizing that I don't have to get upset anymore. I don't have to yell at people. We don't have to call out disciplinary actions. It's just following procedures. Like, hey, what
Yeah.
does the manual say? What's the standard operating procedure for this thing? And that's
Mm.
been the biggest lifesaver for me. It does take some time to actually like write it all down, figure out what is going to be our procedure. What is it going to be? But once you come up with that plan, usually what I do with my teams is have them come with me together and we'll edit it. I'm like, okay, this is what the head coach is going to do. This is what you're going to do. This is what this person on morning shift, evening shift. This is what our virtual admins are going to do. And we'll do it together so they feel like they're bought in. And then when I go to blame them for not doing it, it's not blaming them. It's this is the procedure we created. Why wasn't
Yeah.
it done? So that's made my life a lot easier, and I think a better boss too, where it's not just me shoving down orders to anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think systems too is one of those things I know for me, like I started this very young, and it took me many years to realize that I needed these systems in order to perform at that level as the leader that I needed to be, because you do want to do it all in the beginning. Like you don't want to delegate. You feel like as the business owner, you should be stressed, you should be tired, you should be the one that everyone's pointing fingers at. And there's no reason to have employees if you're not going to create systems, if you're not going to learn how to delegate. So I appreciate you saying that. And I know that business owners can use systems, but our clients can use systems too. Like if you're looking in the mirror every day and you're not happy with what you see and you're not happy with the way you feel, then let's create a system. Let's create a process for getting you to where you want to go. So I think systems
Yes.
can be applied anywhere.
Yeah, and same with kids. Like the systems create security because
Mhm.
all the coaches know exactly what's going on. I don't leave them in the dust. We meet as a big, huge company once a week, so I can tell them, hey, this is coming down the pipeline. This is what like Freedom Week's coming out this week. This is what I want you to announce. So they know what's going on, and that's a time for them for us to give shout outs to the team, also for them to ask me any questions. But they feel like they know their boundaries. Like it's like having a kid who has rules and you set
Yeah.
procedures where they feel safe. They're like, I don't know what's going to happen when I come in today. I don't know what's going. Someone just asked me about that. I don't know. Like they're just don't know what to do. Like yeah, we do. We have systems, so they feel secure. They feel like they can check off those boxes, and I did my job well. Like how do you reward them for doing a job well if there's no system there in place? And I
Mhm.
feel the same way with kids, and you have kids, it's like they have to know that they're loved and cared for. This is why there's boundaries. You can't just do whatever you want. You can't be on your phone all day. You can't be at the
Yeah.
computer all day. You need to go outside. You need this. So that's really helped not only me as a mom, but me as a spouse and also as an owner and helping, like you said, other clients too, realizing that you have to have some sort of structure, routine to where you can fit in your healthy habits in your lifestyle, make room for them. And over time, let's build that habit.
So, speaking of personal habits, what are some personal habits that you have, or maybe like some life hacks that are a part of your daily routine that contribute to your success?
For me, I like everyone looks at me and they think that I'm just a product of genetics. I'm like, you haven't seen my family. Like, I'm the anomaly. Like, no. My biggest goal was to show people that they don't have to be victims of their genetics. Like, they have control over how their genes express themselves. They can turn them
Mm.
on and off like a switch. And so I like epigenetics, I like nutrigenomics, showing them how nutrition influences those genes and it can also express them or depress them. So that was like one of my seminars I did with my coaches and my staff and also the clients. I teach my kids this too. So growing up in a household that wasn't very like mom was on every fad diet, and me myself, my hack has always been like I'm just kind of a nerd in that realm where if I know that I watch certain things in my diet, I don't have to do much. Everyone thinks I work out like 24/7. I do 3 fit body workouts a week, 30 minutes with my kids. Granted, I built up a base from having to do sports at a young age, so I was muscular, but I
Yeah.
wasn't always this lean. I was kind of squishy. I mean, like you tell, I was sort of fit, but it wasn't until like I really fine-tuned my diet. I don't have to do that much exercise. Exercise just for longevity, for making me feel better, boost endorphins, give me those BDNF, those brain derived neurotrophic factors
Yeah.
for longevity and health. And I can maintain it just with fit body workouts. And no one believes me. I'm like, well, you should come live with me. It's
Yeah.
easy. The other thing is just, with life hacks in general, having kids, being busy, like my Instant Pot is my number one thing. I just throw some frozen meat out of the freezer, put it in there, a little bit of liquids and spices, set it, forget it. So we have an instant pot of meat. I have like a big, huge mixed garden salad in there, so we can just take the meat, put it on top. We grow. My husband grows a lot of greens out here in Costa Rica. He has a really green thumb. He does a survival gardener website, so everything is edible on our property. He has a complete self-sustaining aquaponic systems, grow beds, fish pond. We're in a tree farm. So we have a lot of edible stuff. And like we have these big, huge leaves that we wrap for like hamburgers, burritos, tacos. So we're using a lot of the vegetation off our property as well. And like I find having like fresh vegetables, fruits cut up in the front of the fridge makes it easier for my kids to grab and go. We'll do our own like beef jerky here as well. So they have instant snacks they can take with them. We do a lot of plantain chips as well too.
Mm,
We do them either in palm oil or coconut oil. Those are two big oils here. So just watching like the minute stuff can make it a lot easier to throw and prep together meals. And for my kids, like them growing up, I've always been really, really careful not to give them like orthorexia or like any issues like all my siblings had growing up. So we don't tell them they can't ever eat anything. We just explain why, like why I don't want you eating this much sugar. This is what it does to you, and this is how you're going to perform. But it ultimately is up to you. You can decide anything. We don't have the stuff in our house, but I know they go out to friends' houses. They have the green light little kids credit cards, so we teach them about money, so they get allowance on there. They can go spend it however they want. That's their choice. I just want them to be educated. And like growing up as kids, like their first word to the teacher was, "Does that have sugar in it?" Like they knew like sugar was bad for them. Like they knew that
yeah,
it wouldn't help. But one thing that really did help them is Jocko Willink's kids book called The Warrior Kid. They read those and they wanted to be strong because he's like, there's weak food and there's strong food. And so they'd eat
yeah,
this like, is this weak food or is this strong food? Because like the chips, the candy, the sugar will make you weak and not perform well at your sport. So they do like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm like, do you want to be better? Do you want to be faster? Then this is going to make you slower. So you decide which one do you want? Do you want to eat the strong food or the weak food? And so they've kind of
yeah,
grown up with that mindset. And so they will read labels. They're 12 and 15. So they'll read labels. They'll see how much sugar is in it. They'll look how much protein's in it because they know protein's important for them. So at least I'm giving them somewhat of a foundation. And of course, when they go out, they will eat the cake and the popcorn, the candy, and that's fine. But it's not they don't do it all the time. So they're growing up with that foundation from the get go. And so it makes it so much easier than having to transition mass older kids to eat healthier. So that's one thing with the kids. And then I think my other routine, like with my schedule, I always make sure the first part of the morning is for me and the kids. I try not to check anything. Um, and that makes it a lot easier. My husband and we do a lot of intermittent fasting. So it's more like making sure the kids have food, something in the fridge for them to eat. And we'll have like a big meal after lunch and one for dinner together. But the middle of the day, like usually that's when I do my work from maybe Costa Rica is 2 hours behind Florida right now, so that makes it tough. But usually anywhere between like 10 and 5 is my working hours where I'm at the computer trying to do stuff with my teams. And then I turn on Do Not Disturb and hang out with my family and the boys for bed. And so I'm also a big sleep nut too. So I try to optimize my sleep as much as possible and try to always get at least 8, if not 10 hours of sleep if I can, which is
wow.
tough. Yeah. And well, having kids, like I never got any sleep and running businesses, but now it's like my time. Like it's me time.
Well, I love all of that because, I think a lot of times parents, we tell our kids, that's not healthy. And my daughter, she's 5.5, and she actually thinks that like anything that tastes good is not healthy. And the other day we had to have this conversation. Like we have a Ninja Creamy and we'll make like homemade Greek yogurt and, we'll doll it up and make it taste really good. And so because it tastes good, she's like, oh, well, that's not healthy. And I'm like, no, foods that are healthy can taste very good. And I just love that you have educated your kids so much in a way that they know how to read nutritional labels. They know what to put in their body that's going to make them feel good and also optimize food that is good for their performance. And I think the more we can educate our kids, the better off we're going to be as a society when it comes to nutrition. Because, like, I very much grew up in a family similar to you where my mom was always doing a fad diet. My whole dad's side of the family was always doing a fad diet. So for me, I actually thought like you should always be on a diet. Like there's always some diet you should be following. And it wasn't until I got into this industry where I realized I can make these shifts, I can make these daily habits and practices a part of my life, a part of my lifestyle, so that I never have to be on a quote unquote diet. And that's very much the way I want my kids to learn. I want to educate them that they don't have to be on a diet. They can just live a healthy life. They can enjoy, like you mentioned, the popcorn and the ice cream and the cake when they go to a birthday party. But at home, and normally 90% of the time, we're fueling our bodies with nutritious foods that are going to help us feel good and they're going to help us perform. And so I think like education is key, is what you're saying here. And we really need to be better about educating our youth and also just as fitness professionals, educating everybody else around us who does not know any better.
Yeah, and I really find the buy-in is with explaining, not just telling them you can't eat that or don't eat that. It's gonna affect your weight loss or whatever. I'm like, and then they want it. So I'm like, well, let me explain why. Here's why you should avoid it. Here's the science behind it, and it's gonna get you better buy-in, get you better results. So if
Yeah.
you choose to have it, that's fine. But these are the reasons I'm asking you to eliminate it for now. And I really do find that educational piece will get them better buy-in. Instead of like just hearing like a fad diet, oh, you can't eat bread today, or you can't have this today, or you can't have meat, or you can't have this. Like there's always these fad diets where you have to avoid things on them, and never really much of an explanation for me when I was growing up, and so it just made you want more. And so again, me as being someone who wants to understand and what it's doing to my body and how it's going to affect my performance, I want to understand the science. I want to know why I shouldn't have this at this point or right now. So that does help not only with kids but with clients too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Jody, this has been so great, educational, informative, entertaining at the same time. Is there any last parting pieces of wisdom that you would want to leave our audiences with to help them on their own personal fitness journey?
Again, I think it's just a matter of starting where you are, using what you have, and just doing what you can. Everyone thinks they have to do everything, buy the new shoes, empty their pantry, buy all the food, do the meal prep, work out their calendar so they can work out 6 days a week. No, doesn't matter. Just go, move forward. And that's the biggest thing that stalls us is the paralysis of having to do everything at once.
Hmm.
Fitness isn't like that. It's step by step by step. If one thing, you just do the workouts, and then eventually, like you maybe stop cutting out 50% of the sugar, move it to a different time. Like there's always a step ladder approach to everything in fitness. And it's always the minute changes that make the biggest difference. And I always say, try one step for, 30 days. And after you got that one down, it's a habit. You got that one, move on to the next one and keep going. You have the rest of your life. You don't have to do it all tomorrow. And that's the biggest thing that's going to prevent people from making any progress whatsoever. Again, it is a step ladder approach and just do the next thing. Do one thing. That's what I say.
Hmm. I love that. Move forward, just do one step at a time, one thing at a time, small step ladder approach. Well, Jody, thank you so much for joining us. I know our listeners are going to get incredible value from this episode. Where can everyone find you, learn more about all the awesome things that you're doing?
I am on Instagram. It's Jodi Rund Fitness. Same thing on Facebook. It does have links to all three of my Fit Body locations too, if you want to sneak in and see what they're doing. My husband, if you're interested in his gardening, it's survivalgardener.com. He does a lot of interesting videos with the kids, the boys, myself, out in his plants. So it's kind of intertwined together. But yeah, you can find out all about me and stalk me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. As always, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, check us out on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and share this episode with all of your friends. Until next time, thanks so much.